Okay, good day. So this will be my second example in graphing a circular functions, specifically the sine and cosine functions. And I have here the guidelines for sketching the graphs of sine and cosine functions. But before that, from the previous video, you have learned how to graph the function y equals sine x and y equals cosine x um, from the values of x between negative 2 pi to 2 pi. And you already know how to determine the domain and range of the said functions. At the same time, you have learned how to determine the amplitude of a sine and cosine functions. Now, to graph the said functions, the sine and cosine functions, we have here 5 steps to be followed. Okay, we have if the graph to graph y equals a sine bx or y equals a cosine bx with b greater than 0, we have 5 rules to be followed. We have number 1, we're going to determine the period. The period is 2 pi over b. Okay? And after that, we're going to divide the interval into 4 equal parts. Ibig sabihin, from 0 to the period, hahatiin natin yung interval na yon. Halimbawa, ang period mo ay 2 pi. So, ang interval mo from 0 to 2 pi. So, hahatiin mo yon into 4 equal parts. Okay? Then, number 3, evaluate the function for each of the 5 x values resulting from step 2. So, right after na-divide natin, magkakameron tayo ng 5 x values. So, i-evaluate natin doon yung function. The points will be the max and min points and x-intercepts. Okay? Number 4, plot the points and join them with a sinusoidal curve having an amplitude of absolute value of a. Okay? Whatever is the coefficient of the function, you get its absolute value, that will be the amplitude of that said function. And number 5, draw the curve or the graph over additional periods as needed. Okay? So, for example, number 2, we're going to graph y equals sine 2x. And we're going to compare this graph to the graph of the function y equals sine x. So, ibig sabihin, if we're going to compare this to the given function, ang b natin is 2 at ang a natin is 1. Okay? So, therefore, the amplitude is equal to 1. Ganun lang kadali. So, we're going to follow these steps in sketching the graph of that given function y equals sine 2x. Okay, so this will be my second example in graphing sine and cosine functions. We're going to follow the guidelines for sketching the graphs of sine and cosine functions in the form of y equals a sine bx and y equals a cosine bx. Na ito, no? Y equals a sine bx and y equals a cosine bx. Okay. Meron tayong 5 steps to graph the said function. Now, in example number 2, graph y equals sine 2x over a 2-period interval. So, dalawang period tayo. So, what we're going to do is to determine first the period. That is step 1 do sa guidelines sa pag-sketch ng graph ng sine and cosine functions. Okay, step 1 is determine the period. Okay. Ang period natin, mako-compute using this one, 2 pi over b. Sa case ng ating example, y equals sine 2x, matching this to this one, which is y equals a sine bx. Ang a natin ay 1, ang b natin ay 2. So, therefore, ang period natin will be 2 pi over 2 or pi. Okay. So, makatwid, ang isang period natin o isang interval natin is from 0 to pi. The next will be pi to 2 pi. On the other side of the y-axis, from 0 to negative pi or negative pi to 0. Isang interval is from 0 to pi. One period lang to. Ano? Kailangan natin 2 intervals natin from negative pi to pi ang gagamitin natin. But I'm going to use this to divide this interval into 4 equal parts, which is step 2. Okay? Divide the interval into 4 equal parts. So, paano yon? Kukunin natin yung midpoint. Okay? Yung x values niya. So, ilay natin from 0 to pi. Okay? Laki-laki natin. Paano makukuha, may divide to into 4 equal parts dun sa ating x-axis? Kukunin natin yung midpoint. Midpoint nito is the sum of these two divided by 2. So, 0 plus pi divided by 2 is pi over 2. Yun yung gitna. Tapos, kunin natin yung gitna nito. 0 plus pi over 2 divided by 2 is pi over 4. Yung gitna nito is pi over 2 plus pi is 3 pi over 2 divided by 2, 3 pi over 4. So, nahati ko na. Okay? Nahati ko na into 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now, ito ay over 1 period interval lamang. Gagawin natin 2 period interval. Paano yon? Yung other side nito. Other side of the y-axis. Ito yung nasa positive side of the x-axis. Dun sa negative side of the x-axis will be from negative pi to 0. Okay? There's no need to divide it to 4 equal parts. All we have to do is to change the sign of these 4. So, mangyayari, yung isa pa ay negative pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 4, and negative pi. Okay? So, ito na siya. So, ang interval na yan is from negative pi to pi. Okay? Yan ay 2-period interval na. Okay? Next step is make a table of values. So, we have the x-axis. Okay, lagay muna natin dito yung 2x. Okay. Then, lagay natin dito yung sine 2x. And then, yung x values natin, we have starting from negative pi, negative 3 pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative pi over 4, 0, then pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, then pi. Okay? Kunin natin yung 2x. Okay? Ang 2x niya will be negative 2 pi. Okay? Ang 2x nito will be negative 3 pi over 2. Ito will be negative pi. Ito ay negative pi over 2. This is 0. Pi over 4 times 2 is pi over 2. This will be pi. 2 times 3/4 of pi is 3 pi over 2. And lastly, 2 pi. Kunin na natin yung sine of these angles. Okay? Sine negative 2 pi, so that will be 0. Okay? Or kung hindi kayo sure, this is 180 degrees. That will be sine negative, this is negative 360 degrees. Negative 360 is 0. Okay? This is 3 pi over 2, 270. So that will be 1. Okay? Sine negative pi, that will be negative 180 is 0. Sine negative pi over 2, that will be negative 1. Sana memorize nyo yung mga values nito, yung 30, 40, 60, 270, 90, 180, 360, and 0. Sine 0 is 0. Sine pi over 2 is 1. Sine pi is 0. Sine 3 pi over 2 is, that will be negative 1. And sine pi is, this should be 2 pi. Sine 2 pi is 0. Yan. Okay. So, right after nyan, pwede na natin siyang i-plot. So, lagay natin yung kanyang scale. We have 0, negative pi over 2, pi over 2, pi over 2. We have pi. We have 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. Okay? At yun na equivalent to negative pi, negative 3 pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative pi over 4, 0, etc., etc. So we have pi over 4 here. This is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi. We have here negative pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 4, negative pi. Okay? So, 2-period interval na siya. From negative pi to pi. Okay, ito yung 0. Now, plot natin. We have negative pi 0. So, dito yan. We have negative 3 pi over 4, 1. Negative pi over 2, 0. Negative pi over 4, negative 1. Okay. We have 0, 0. Pi over 4, 1. Pi over 2, 0. 3 pi over 4, negative 1. Okay. And then we have pi 0. So, ito yung ating graph. Yeah. Okay. So, this is the graph of the function y equals sine 2x. Okay. Also, yung amplitude pala natin, ang amplitude natin is equal to the absolute value of a. So the coefficient of sine here is 1. So we have absolute value of 1. Therefore, the amplitude is 1. Okay. So that is how to graph the sine and cosine function using the guidelines for sketching the graph of y equals a sine bx and y equals a cosine bx. So, thank you.